All right, let's get into it. How you doing? This is MCM, and you're listening to You're Probably Right podcast. Or should I just say, this is Michael, and you're listening to You're Probably Right podcast. Well, check it out. This particular episode is a special episode of this podcast in that I'm going to be honestly as straight up as I can possibly be. I can give you a script. I can search through different things that have been on my mind and maybe things that have been talked to me by various individuals that I know, or just stories and scenarios and stuff like that that I find interesting. The reason why I've decided to open this podcast episode differently is from something that feedback I got about the podcast. So I decided just to do, I guess, a cold open. This particular episode, I mean, there's many of us on this planet. There's many of us in various cultures and communities, and I'm sure there's going to be a few people that this would be catered to, and maybe many that it doesn't. I can't really say because I'd be one of these people. So I really don't know. I can't even begin to think about the minds of those who are nothing like me. But this episode would be for someone who's maybe, let's say, for instance, last child of a family of maybe three or four, or maybe even two, or five, or seven, or 13. And somehow life has thrust them into maybe single fatherhood, maybe single motherhood, and maybe looking for a new relationship. And for some reason, they found themselves time and time again in relationships where they are reaching, they are chasing, they are anxious, they are trying to work for love. And for some reason, the individuals they pick are, I guess, the best to say it, I guess, would be the opposite. Although they say opposites attract, maybe not in the best ways, at least in this or these types of scenarios. Again, differently, this talk would be catered to an individual who has been affected by a relationship that gave them genuine moments of love, um, maybe even euphoria. Maybe it gave them that cloud nine effect. Maybe it gave them relief or belonging, but also left them emotionally depleted, hypervigilant, maybe from being bullied as a kid, physically or mentally, or both, confused, and repeatedly hurt, and therefore unable to walk away as easily as outsiders assume they should. It is for the person whose attachment is not just to another human being, but to hope. They always trust that something good will happen. The sun will maybe come out tomorrow and things will neatly be placed in order at some point. It's for the person whose identity, chemistry, history, and imagined future wrapped up in that bond. Psychologically, this is someone struggling with the after effects of inconsistency, craving what soothes them, fearing what harms them, and slowly realizing that what felt profound may, in part, have been an old wound touching rather than a healthy future being built. So I begin. In this episode, you're going to hear me ask 20 questions. Now, these 20 questions, I'm going to do my best to answer from someone who's been somewhat affected in these weird ways. And I believe that I sometimes I'd like to say I'm an enigma when it comes to certain social aspects of this world and society, in my culture, in my community, of which I'm definitely an outlier, or at least a black sheep of sorts. So I'm going to start this. And as I said before, this episode may not hit home to many people who are nothing like me. And I know because I've spoken to them, there are a lot of people who do not see things the way I do, that have not been affected by life the way I have been. And obviously, you can look at me and say the same thing. You've not been affected and you haven't lived, you haven't walked in my shoes, right? But I believe there are a lot of people like me. A lot of those people might even be females. And although I am very comfortable in my own shoes in which I was born, figuratively, literally, uh, yeah. But being a last child like I am, being a father who've had to take care of my own kids, which surprisingly, right? No, I mean, single fatherhood has been a part of my life for a lot of it. Not always have been married. I'm not saying I'm not. I'm just kind of saying I'm trying to keep this open so that even though it's just me and you talking, and you might be, simpatico, you might be on, you might be here, my eyes to my two fingers pointing from my eyes to your eyes, you understand? But I'm trying to make sure that many people know that even though I don't walk that same type of life that they do, you might still be able to understand where I'm coming from. And hopefully, if possible, not that I'm trying to do magic here, but maybe you might learn something in some way, shape, or form. Now, of course, if you're a psychologist, you might be calling me saying, yo, man, we need to have 10 more sessions. Anyhow, if somebody came to your mind before I even got going, this episode is probably for you. That one said, I won't even get into what I really mean by that. Listen, this is for the person who is trying to make sense of a bond that was empty, or at least not really empty, but it seemed empty at the end, except for full of feelings and pain and wounds. Not imagined, not all bad, and still somehow became too expensive to keep carrying. This is for the person who knows there were real moments of warmth and real moments of comfort and real moments of feeling seen and connected, and still cannot ignore what is the reality of what it cost them to stay close in that situation. Because that is what makes certain relationships so hard to walk away from. It's not always that the person was evil every day. It's not always that the whole thing was fake, although you doubt that sometimes when you think back. Sometimes the hardest people to leave are the ones who did bring something real into your life. Maybe a really, really good lesson. And although it might have been wrapped in pain, they helped you. They understood you in certain moments. They really understood you in certain moments. As a matter of fact, some situations where others would have no clue what you meant by what you said or what you did or that look you gave, but for some reason, this person knows. They made you laugh. They made you feel chosen. They made something in you come alive. And that is exactly why it gets really complicated. A lot of people stay stuck because they think clarity means they have to lie about the good. They think if they finally admit the relationship is hurting them, then they also have to pretend it never mattered and never felt good to the core. But that is not the truth. The truth is that something can be meaningful and still be harmful. Something can be beautiful in places and still be damaging overall. Something can feel deep and still be wrong for your future. So, this episode is not really about turning somebody into a villain. It's about helping you count the whole bill. It's about helping you stop measuring the relationship only by what it gave you in the best moments and start measuring it by what it has been doing to your body, your mind, your peace, your psyche, your hope, your confidence, your daily life. Because a lot of people have stayed in painful bonds simply because they kept honoring gifts and minimizing damage. And if you're still with me up to this point, I'm going to say this. If you were thinking about writing a book, if you were thinking about doing your very first podcast, then I'm going to help you do that. So, in a moment, after I finish what I'm saying here, because I've cut myself off again, is I'm going to ask 20 questions. And from my walk of life, maybe through different situations and maybe, about different, of course, unnamed, anonymous people, so, connection with me, I'm going to answer these questions. And maybe you can type them out, or maybe I can put them in the description. And maybe you can ask yourself, maybe you and your friends can do this as a little, get together, maybe 5 of you get around and ask each other these questions and actually listen to each other's answers. The only prerequisite for you doing this, though, this exercise, is that, and maybe it's just 2 of you, but I think it'd be better with at least 3 or 4 minds. But 5, I think, would be the best. Maybe 7. 7 would probably, yeah, 7 might be the best. And I'm going to answer these questions. Um, if you want, you can pause the episode as I go into the next, so we're ready and we're all answering the question together at the same time. And, we'll see how it goes. This is definitely a different episode, if you're probably right. And I want to do that for you guys every once in a while, right? What's the point of having my show with you if I'm not going to be myself? Because when you're listening to me talk, you're being yourself. So if we're both open, then I think it makes for a better podcast episode somehow for you and for me. So what I want to do here is simple. I want to ask you the kinds of questions that cut through the fog. Not the weird questions, not the vague questions, because I know how you hate vague questions. Real questions, questions that help you tell the truth about what this relationship has actually been, what it has actually done to you, and what are you getting from it, or what you got from it. What have you been losing in it, and whether the good is still worth the cost. So as I said before, this will help you maybe write your memoirs, maybe write the history of your life, maybe simply just a journal in your journal, an update in your journal saying, maybe I learned such and such today, whatever year it is in your time. But at the same time, although we're obviously not going through this at the same exact time, with the, I guess, according to world calendars, but our thoughts are going at the same time in that we are thinking about the same thing at the same time, if you understand, although we are not in the same place. Yeah, yeah. Okay, first question. I feel like I need a drink. All right, I'll have a drink in my hand in approximately just like that. I got my drink. I'm gonna do something for the throwback fans of this show. That's right. Pour myself a ginger ale. Why not, right? I mean, Canada. Canada Dry. Somehow I think people try to make that a somehow a way to disrespect people from Canada. Canada Dry. Whatever. Anyhow, first question. So I'm gonna do my best to answer it as honest as I can. It shouldn't reflect any specific person. So if you know me and you're listening to me, don't think, oh, this guy's about to talk about me. I definitely, certainly would not say your name if it was you. Anyhow, when you think about this person, as I said before, the best movies, the ones that we love, we find out generally you'll have a main character that is a mixture of five people sometimes that some person decided to amalgamate and put together and turn it into a screenplay. I just keep kind of saying stuff like that because I don't want anybody to cast aspersions on someone that I know thinking, ha, they're talking about you. Okay, here we go. I don't think anybody cares. When you think about this person at their best, what is the main good you keep remembering that's maybe keeping you stuck or has kept you stuck or kept you stuck? Of course, I kind of just stressed the question, but you know what I mean. All right. So for me, and maybe you've paused already and you're back listening to what I have to say. You've answered the question with your friends or yourself, maybe. Maybe you're just writing it down. You're speaking into a mirror. Who knows? I think the best part that I probably keep remembering is the fact that they seem to, when they look at me, seem to know what I'm thinking in many cases. Like I can tell by the stuff they say. Sometimes I'm just out of the blue. They'll see a look from me and then they'll say, you're thinking of blah blah blah, aren't you? And it's like my first inclination is like, no, because like what the heck? Why the heck do you know exactly what I think so often? And it's not that I calculate that all every time it happens, but the point is it's like every single time from the first to the last, anytime they knew exactly what I thought by the response of what they said, I like they imagine what I'm thinking. For some reason, when they're imagining it, it's that. And just feeling that connected to someone who really knows you. Like I can't even say, and obviously if we wouldn't be here talking if I was that person for that person, although I wish I was, I wish I could be, but I know, you know, um, you don't know what you're to them, right? But you do know that in most cases it's not as much or not as your value isn't as high as you would like it to have been, or it's not as where you would like it to be. So again, that's probably why you're here, but I'm just answering it for me and saying that that was the main thing. For whatever reason, they could actually read your mind. You know, when you have conversations, we all have conversations in life where you're talking to someone and they might understand exactly what you mean 8 out of 10 times, but those other 2 times you realize they have absolutely no clue. Well, in those 2 times that most people get wrong, this person gets those 2 right. So even if they get 5 other ones wrong, the fact that they actually know what you mean when you do this or say that, you're the only one who knows that name, you're the only one who knows that thing. And I think that's the difference. And sometimes we even forget that that person may not even get the other, as I said, the other 8 fully. But the fact that they get those 2 things right about you makes you feel that much more connected. That's how I'll answer the first question. Let's go. Next one. When you think about them at their worst, what is it or what's the cost your body remembers first? Not sure if I'm going to give you a why. I think most of us can answer this question pretty quickly, if you're honest and you don't start debating with yourself. For me, it's the disrespect. It's the not care at the same time. It's the fact that they got me, but then they kind of could care less that they did. And that's exactly how I'll say it, and I won't stretch it to make it any longer than that. That's what anyway. If you stop defending them for a minute, which I don't think I have been, but if you stop defending them for a minute, what would you say this what would you say this relationship has been or actually been doing in your peace? This is question number 3. If you stop defending them for a minute, what would you say this relationship has actually been doing to your peace? For me, it has given me peace in spurts. And for some reason those spurts or hiccups or glitches, um although they're very painful, they don't seem to last as long as the peace that I found in pockets with this person. So no matter how bad a certain part is, or a certain day, or a certain moment is, or a certain maybe feeling that maybe rushes over me is, it doesn't compare to the peace I feel with that individual. Number 4, what do you keep hoping will change that is not really changed yet? Well, for me, it would be that the pockets get opened up and cut, the bottom gets cut and it becomes to totally whatever the substance is in that pocket totally engulf their being so that they're like that all the time, so that they know about those 2 situations, but at the same time they care about me and how I feel and whether they're disrespecting me and you know that's it. Like as I said, people, oh, they want to be loved, they want to be cuddled and all that, but I guess I feel that that part of it is just natural. People have feelings. Maybe there's people out there who really, really don't, but I figure the cuddly, lovey poo times will come if you allow it. But when they get you in those certain ways that nobody else ever does, ever has, it's a huge difference. And maybe it's just because we as people are selfish and we think that all of our 10 boxes need to be checked, when really we're lucky if only 4 are, or any at all, you know? I guess it's one thing, you think about it, maybe it's just the fact of just learning how to be humble and being satisfied that you've been given grace and mercy at all in any positive or any way that you would find or deem positive for you. Yeah. Number 5, are you attached to who they are most of the time or to a few unforgettable moments that keep pulling you back in? This is number 5. For me, I think it's the few unforgettable moments that keep pulling me back in because, the funny thing is, like, there's a few of those moments where, like, were like amazing, but then I could also remember um an instance or two where it was kind of like blah. You know what I mean? Like there's a few moments where it's like I could let this go easy. You know what I mean? But those were totally like apparitions and they disappeared. But every once in a while my mind does run back on those two couple situations or for a couple situations that kind of had me thinking like, this is what you're this is what you're head over heels about. You know what I mean? Oh man. All right, I'm gonna read number 6. Number 6. What do you get from this, or what did you get from this relationship that makes it hard to let go, even when it hurts? Again, it did what? Well, I guess it's different. What did I get from it? I think what I got from it personally was being seen when usually I'm invisible for those split seconds. It's kind of like put it like this: you came to really like a eureka moment, maybe in your life, maybe in your last 6 days, or maybe in your day, and you decided to explain this to someone and get their feedback from it, but because they didn't understand what you said in that moment, it gets totally skirted over like you never said it at all. And it'd be too embarrassing for you to double down and ask the question again, maybe because you want to save them the the embarrassment of admitting that they weren't listening to you, or save you the embarrassment of them admitting that they weren't listening to you, but you don't want to go over it. And for some reason, those types of situations happen all the time, and we tend to let it go. As I said before, because that person will usually get you in the other 8 other areas of conversation, or in 80% of the other conversations that you have. So conversations are generally nice, but for some reason, when you get into something that's very, very profound that most people don't have time to listen to fully, for some reason, that person with less explanation and less effort gets you in those areas. So, what you got from it was just being seen where you never seen. Get it? 7. What have you been losing while trying to keep this bond alive? I think what I've been losing is having the opportunity to maybe be with someone who gets me in 9 places, or maybe gets me in those 2 areas and maybe a few more of the other areas that that person might not have, understood me in, I guess. I mean, I don't know. Sometimes you look at it and say, we as people are really self-centered, some of us. But I think it's like, when we're born, I think if we grow up a little bit better, if we grow up a little bit more, we mature a little bit more, maybe it won't be like a look at me, like when we're a baby. You know what I mean? And then many of us have grown up. We've done very responsible things. Um, Maybe we're agreeable. Maybe we're slightly on the, right in the middle there, disagreeable and agreeable. But we've maybe bent over backwards for people so many times throughout our life. And when we look at it as a percentage of when we weren't doing that, and maybe the percentage is so high that being able to be thrust into that look at me stage of life um, feels really good because maybe we were thrust out of it when we should have been able to sit in it. And I think a lot of it's the reason why we weren't able to sit in it for as long was or is because we were bullied in different ways. We were degraded in different ways. We were embarrassed regularly in different ways. So I think that might be the difference in many of our lives. At least when I look back on it, and I think about it right now, because I'm just, thinking about it straight up. I think that would have been it for me. Okay, moving right along. It's kind of funny how you end. You don't know. Like I haven't listened to these questions or whatever. I haven't read these questions before. I'm just asking them as I'm seeing them here, and it's kind of funny how somebody can ask you 20 questions and you can literally answer each of them. Now we're only at 8. Maybe I'm not gonna be able to in the future, but it's just kind of funny how even the ones so far I've been able to answer all of them, and it's like you know the answer right away. Probably because it's about feelings, right? Let's see. In touch with your feelings. Do you feel more like yourself around this person, or more edited, careful, tense, and managed? Um, I would say for me, I would say I'm more like my exact self, but I'm careful. Well, in the beginning, maybe I wasn't so careful, and I think that's what was the attraction. Um, huh, there you go, Eureka. In the beginning for me, I would just say whatever. And maybe I was careless because I didn't think that, maybe I would be with that person. And then once I got with the person, I'm like, what the heck? They actually chose me. So then I start editing certain aspects because you don't want to lose. You know what I mean? Don't want to lose what I got. Kind of like how Sylvester Stallone says it in Rocky, probably Rocky 3, probably Rocky 4, whatever. I I mean, if you're hearing me right now, you know what I mean. Next question: when something is wrong, do you feel safe bringing it up, or do you start calculating how to say it without paying for it later? That would be it right there. um, I I would say I can bring up most things, but I sometimes you look at it and you try to be strategic in how you're gonna say it because you realize that for me, I realized this person would maybe jump one side. Like the answers that they come up with sometimes it's like, did you hear anything? Like it doesn't even your take on it makes no sense at all. But and I guess I don't edit myself that much, but so it would happen enough, you know? And it's just kind of strange. But yeah, you do find yourself wondering how should you say something to this person, or how do you explain when they got something misconstrued or whatever. Misconstrued. 10. Are you living with a real person, or with the version of them you keep hoping will finally stay? Hmm. maybe now it seems like it's it's like a version, I guess. It's hard to say, you know. I think people's lives are complicated, and sometimes we expect things from people that they just don't have because their life has been so tumultuous or busy or upsetting in so many ways that I think sometimes we think people have the capacity for our nonsense too, and they don't. They really don't. And for some reason, it just doesn't dawn on us as to why not. Has this relationship made your life more steady or just more emotionally intense? Um, I would say probably more intense for me. It's made my life more intense because, like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, you just figure, I guess, for me, that a person who understands me in these ways would care that they understand me in these ways and know that it's not normal for people to get me in that way. And then maybe they're just intuitive that way. Like, just thinking maybe they're intuitive in those two ways in everybody's life that they meet. And maybe that's what makes them infectious, maybe, or and maybe that's why people gravitate to them in an emotional way. Imagine. I mean, why not? Why? Yeah. If most people don't understand certain things about you, maybe there's many of us who don't understand, things in that area, maybe. Yeah, I don't know. Moving right along. Number 12. How often do you feel calm with them, and how often do you feel just relieved that the storm paused for a minute? I guess I don't when the storm pauses, depending on what kind of storm. For me, um, nothing's too high, nothing's too low in most cases. But I mean, for me, it seems like most of those pauses are gone. Right? And now we're just, there and hoping that, there might be another pause again. Yeah. You got to answer it how you can answer it, man. 13. If your best friend described this exact relationship to you, what would you honestly tell them? I would tell them honestly, and of course, I'm talking about someone who is not married. If I was explaining this to someone who's not married, because I said this whole picture changes when you're married. Maybe this picture shouldn't even exist if you're not, right? Um, I would say that if you keep yourself open, if you stay in proper, I would say godly, but if it was my best friend, right? um, Social atmospheres where you can have access to people who are like-minded and who might be the right person for you. So just understand that this situation is a lesson. I won't say it's a test because I'm sure your test happened, and I'm sure that it didn't. Well, I mean, I'm not sure. I can't say that it was a win for you. It could have been a loss. But whether it was a win or whether it was a loss, you won because you got a lesson. Maybe you got a few lessons, few understandings. Maybe it motivated you to push for something, or motivated you to push to do something, or helped you accomplish something. So therefore you won. So I would say to my best friend, keep your head up, stay humble, and at the same time while you're staying humble, understand that you have worth. because you were fearfully and wonderfully made by Almighty God. And the word says that God cares about every hair on your head. So if he cares that much about you, then you do have value. You. Number 14. What part of you has been trying to earn something here that should not have been asked to be earned? Um, I just believe that if you get into a relationship with someone, honestly, not I'm not talking about you have an encounter with a person. Because sadly, many of us have got into situations with people or had interactions with people that we shouldn't have had before we really knew who that person was. So, yeah, I just think honestly that respect is so important. And I'm just saying, if you're going to hitch your wagon to someone, even for a short time, the very least you can do for that person is respect them. And I think anybody who's listening under the sound of my voice, as they say, if you're in a relationship with someone and you don't respect the person, please let them go. Or it's not even that you don't respect them, because you can learn to respect the person. But what I mean, honestly, if you're in a relationship with someone and you know you're disrespecting them regularly, please let them go. Either that or make it your every waking hour and day that you are doing anything that has to do with that person, your goal to respect them in every way you can, at very minimum. And if you can't, let them go. 15. Are you staying because the relationship is healthy, or because leaving feels like losing the one place you still hope to be chosen? And I think that's it for me. It's leaving feels like, maybe I haven't felt chosen by a person who's understood me in these ways. So losing, if I leave it, losing it, or if I lost it, and why I tried not to lose it was traumatic for me, is because I figured it would probably be the last time that I would ever be understood and connected in those ways that felt so important to me. 16. What excuses do you make, or do you keep making, because you understand their wounds, their stress, their past, or their pain? Um, I think the excuses is that I think you realize, or I realize, that they're so damaged that it's like, how can you really, with a proper full head of understanding and conscience, really expect them to make the decisions that would make you satisfied in those situations, because of so many wounds that are in their lives that they probably are not even seeing straight. So they're not realizing when they're pushing on your buttons, because so many of their buttons have been pushed and they don't know their head from their foot. And you're over here trying to make an irrational person rational in your world, in the ways that you'd like them to be rational, because it's good for you and it feels good for you, I guess. 17. At what point did you understand them? All right, wait. At what point did understanding them start costing you? Look, I gotta read that again. At what point did understanding them start costing you loyalty to yourself? Um, I think from the very inception of the idea of, I have just realized that they've totally been disrespectful, but I washed over it and stepped over that. Instead of turning left or right, I stepped over it and kept going toward them right there. And I believe that's definitely a disloyal move to yourself. Because as I said, there is a difference between humbling yourself and having respect for yourself. And just because you're being humble doesn't mean you're respecting yourself. And I think you need to be humble, but I think you also need to respect yourself at the same time because you are fearfully and wonderfully made. God says the hair from your head doesn't fall without God knowing about it. That's what the Bible says. God says that He knows when every sparrow falls from the sky. He says that we are more valuable than they. Or how much more valuable are we than they? So God knows. So although you are to be humble, you still need to respect yourself because you are God's creation. Right. 18. Have you been loving this person, or have you been managing their instability and calling it love? I would say going toward them so strongly has allowed me to lose caring about or for myself as much as I should have, I think. And you think you're loving the person, but I think it's more like you're yearning, or Kramer had said, quoning. I quone. Oh, that was funny. Um, yeah, I think the yearning that whatever has happened, whatever connection happened, whatever sparks flew, had you yearning so much for this person in certain ways that you kind of skirt over everything that you know is there that are totally undesirable. And I think there it is. Number 19. If nothing changed from this point forward, would you want this same pattern to be your life a year from now? Heck no. What's the point? If you're always going to be like reaching, I mean, I think if you ask the donkey, I mean, let's just say a carrot is his favorite food. And they knew, and you knew that if the only way for them to see another carrot would be to see this carrot hanging over their head just far enough out of the reach that they can't bite it, and they never ever will bite it, then for me, and maybe the donkey that I am, I would say I'd rather never see another carrot in my life, if that's the only way that I was going to see a carrot. Even though it's my favorite thing, even though it looks wonderful and more beautiful than anything that I've ever seen, I'd say you can keep those carrots, keep that carrot away. Maybe it's just a spotless, perfect carrot, but I'll see other carrots. I'm saying I'd rather never see a carrot like that again, at least. What good is it going to do me if I know and you know that I'm never going to actually get it? Then what do I need to see it? Just to admire it? Not me. I'm not that way. But I guess some people like to see things from afar and admire, maybe yearn after it. I don't know. Because I mean, how can you not yearn after something wonderful? Totally desirable for you, your thing, whatever that is. Maybe it's a coconut flaked donut and it's your favorite donut, and hits you in 50 different flavorous erogenous zones or something like that, and nothing else has. Why would you even want to see it if you know that you weren't going to experience those different synapses or whatever? You know what I mean? I guess that's just me. Guess, but I'm the guy who used to play video games, and I stopped playing video games because I liked them too much, and I knew that it was wasting my time. So I didn't keep playing as an adult like most guys. Like I did for a while. I mean, I got to the point where I used to play hockey in sports, well, mainly hockey on the treadmill. I was able to play and play pretty well too. Jog, running on the treadmill, playing hockey on the PlayStation or something on the Xbox. But then I just stopped playing altogether because I realized that I'd stop playing after 8 hours, 5 hours, 2 hours, just wasting time. So anyway, that's just me though. Um, Last question. What would it look like to finally count both sides honestly? What was real and what has it costed you? I think for what was real, the cost really wasn't worth it. And it's not even just the cost, it's the fact that what I thought meant so much or would mean so much to them, or what I thought should mean so much to them, meant very, very little. And the point is, it cost me so much for it. Then it's like, well, I wish I gave it to someone else. You know what I mean? It's not that you begrudge the fact that you gave it to them in the essence of not doing what you did for them. It's the fact that if you gave it to someone else who would appreciate it half as much as you thought, at least half as much as you thought that it was valued, and maybe even more than what you thought it was worth, then that somehow, I guess it would just, I guess for me, it would be way more satisfying than to give something out of your heart, out of your well hard earned money, maybe, or maybe just out of your well hard earned time or effort, just to find out that what you gave that was so valuable to you was like worthless to them. Anyhow, that's my answer to those 20 questions. Hopefully, you got your answers, and maybe you have the beginnings that you can write your memoirs. Maybe you can write a book on how you feel. Maybe you can write your first podcast episode. You can call it a podcast called Being Being You with your name on it. Anyhow, if you answer those questions honestly, you are probably going to feel something before you even can explain why or anything. You are probably going to feel where the truth has been sitting the whole time. Because most people do know. Maybe not all at once. Maybe not in a clean sentence right away. But somewhere in the body, somewhere in the quiet moments where, somewhere after the apology wears off and the house gets still, they know when something has become too expensive. Sorry. And what is the point? What's the point I want to leave with you? Well, I guess that is the point I want to leave with you. Hang on. You do not have to prove that somebody was all bad in order to admit that this has been bad for you. You don't need a dramatic ending to justify a clear conclusion. You don't need to wait. Why is my voice sound like this? You don't need to wait until the damage becomes catastrophic just to give yourself permission to take it seriously. Sometimes the deepest truth is not that the good was fake, it is that the good was real, but it was not enough to cover the cost that you had to pay. Because that is where a lot of people lose their years. They keep looking at the bright spots and calling them a relationship. They keep living on expectations, living on a prayer instead of patterns. They keep waiting for almost to become actual. They keep telling themselves that because there is still love, still history, still chemistry, still tenderness in places, they should keep paying a price that is wearing them down. But maturity is learning to count both. Yes, there was something here, and yes, it has been costing me too much. So if this episode lands on anything, let it land here. You are allowed to tell the truth without becoming cold. You are allowed to grieve without going back. You are allowed to care and still close the door. You are allowed to stop calling survival loyalty. You are allowed to stop confusing emotional intensity with safety. You're allowed to choose a life that does not require you to keep shrinking just to keep the peace. And maybe that is the sentence that matters most in the end. Not that they never gave you anything, even if it was not that much, but it was much. Not that you imagined the good, not that you were stupid for staying. Just this: whatever was real here, your life is real too. Your peace is real too. Your body is real too. Your future, don't know how long, but it's real. Well, I guess in the grand scheme of things, your future is eternal. And there comes a moment when wisdom finally says, I have counted the good, I have counted the cost, and I cannot keep paying for this with my life and eternal life. So think of that as deep as you can possibly grasp it. Anyhow, y'all, thanks for coming out. We'll see you next time. Take care. This is MCM signing off. You're probably right. Hey, come check out You're Probably Right podcast. Society is getting more unpredictable every day, but at the same time, predictable in its unpredictability. Say that 4 times real fast. Come with me as I attempt to find clarity in all the fog while staying way outside the box and kicking the box way down the road with my size 12 ducks. I use the Bible, experience, education, fortune, misfortune, life's lessons, life's mistakes to sort through all the mess. I talk about news, God, God, self-help, sports, sickness, health, music, parenting, love, humbleness, hurt, pain, joy, and all the things that might make you say, I never thought of it that way. Hopefully, anyway. Also, I take a stab at answering tough and not so tough questions, and all the while understand that, listen, sometimes you end up in the hot seat and there's no thermostat. Well, that's how it is here. And because there's no topic, very few topics off the table, Torontonians will understand that Doug Ford reference there. Hopefully the podcast will be helpful and uplifting. And hey, maybe you'll find your own private Idaho here somewhere. Hope to see you soon.